webinar. And if you'll look on the side, it says questions. There's something that says questions, and you could just type your question into me. I'm going to keep track of all the questions, and if it's appropriate, I'll break in to Jeff to ask that question, or I may wait for a more opportune time to ask Jeff that question, or wait till the end of the webinar where we have some time allotted for Q&A. Further, there may be a time where Jeff asks a question of you, and that's where we'll utilize that chat tab. He may ask you to pick one or another, and if you could please want to get involved, a little interaction, utilize that chat tab and type your response in there, and again, I'll be the moderator for that. And let's see, I'm actually going to show you a couple of things that we have going on here at Capital Lighting. And as a pro member, you may be aware of our Expert Finder feature. That is a feature that we advertise right on our home page. Expert Finder is something that we allow the tens of thousands of homeowners and architects, builders to look for an expert to assist them in their projects. Expert Finder is a free service that we offer for all those who are pros on 1-800-LIGHTING-PRO. So signing up to be a pro on 1-800 Lighting is an easy process. We do ask for some credentials, but it's usually done within 24 hours. Once you're an approved pro on our site, you go into the Expert Finder section, which is right here, fill out the information, and our tens of thousands of customers can see information on you and your company. I also wanted to tell everyone about a terrific event we're having here in the Boca Raton showroom next week, and you're all invited. It's a Roaring Twenties party to celebrate our founding in 1924. We're turning our showroom here into a 1920s speakeasy with food and drinks and entertainment. It's going to be a terrific networking event. So if you live in the area or happen to be visiting South Florida, please let us know so that we can expect you. It's Thursday, April 26th, from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And lastly, before we get started, our relationship with you is certainly a two-way street. Capital Lighting's stated mission is to be part of a team to help make the world a brighter place. We strive every day to add value to our pro community and to deliver you relevant content and to bring you showrooms and a website that is second to none. So I invite you to please share with me or any member of my team your thoughts or experiences with us. We always love to hear where we have exceeded your expectations, or perhaps where we have fell short. We never stop learning, and we're always striving to improve our business. And with that commitment to learning, let's get started with the webinar. I'm going to pass this back over to Jeff, and to introduce Jeff. Jeff Dross is the Corporate Director of Education and Industry Trends at Capital Lighting. No, not at Capital Lighting, not yet anyway, no, at Kichler Lighting. Jeff has an educational background in architecture and has been employed in the residential lighting field since 1974. His specialties are lighting trends, energy efficient lighting trends, including LED, residential and interior and exterior trends, and socioeconomic trends relative to the residents. So without further ado, take it away, Jeff.
Hi, everybody. Glad you could spend the afternoon with us, or at least a portion of the afternoon, learning about light layering. I hope this is going to be real interesting for you, because I think the concept of light layering, or making sure that things are lit appropriately, is going to be a really important aspect of good quality interior design into the future. So let's just take a quick look at what we're going to review today. We're going to take a minute and look at what had happened with lighting in the past. Then we're going to go through the 3 layers of light. Layer 1 is the ambient layer, or general lighting. Layer 2, accent or decorative lighting. Layer 3 is task lighting. We're going to then take those 3 layers and relate them to application in the kitchen. We'll talk about them in the bathroom, and then I've left enough room at the end of this so that we can entertain any questions that you might have. So let's get started. So those of you who have been around for just a little while, even if it's just as short as 10 years ago, might recognize these two photographs. This is pretty much, even as close to about 10 years ago, this was pretty much the way interiors were lit. The dining room on the left, there was a dining table in the middle of the room, hutch off to the side, and a chandelier in the middle of the room, and that pretty much completed the lighting task in that dining room. If you look to the image on the right, have a normal, typical kitchen, and then one of these big, huge fluorescent boxes in the middle of the room. And that fluorescent box put out a ton of light, and hopefully some of it got where it was supposed to get on the counters and anywhere else in the room so that the jobs could be completed. There really was very little flexibility in the creation of these environments, and this one source really didn't allow for a lot of creativity. But now what we're doing right now is using light layering and including lighting as a design element, and that really hadn't been the case in the past. So basically, we are talking about ambient lighting or general lighting, task lighting, and accent or decorative lighting. So let's get into the first layer, the ambient layer. This is basically foundational light. It is an even application of light in the background, and it is a basis on which all of the other lighting in the room is connected. So what is ambient lighting? Well, in the past, in that previous photograph, and even here, that big fluorescent box in the center of the kitchen was an ambient light. There are some people, some designers, who are still using that big fluorescent box, but over the years, we've had a number of other options. Track lighting has been something of an ambient light. Large surface-mounted fixtures, so you see this piece over here in green in the middle, and then in this small kitchen shot, there's a flush ceiling piece right over here that was served as an ambient light. And then, of course, recessed cans. Recessed cans right now are probably the most popular ambient light that's being used in a kitchen. So there's a couple of interesting questions about recessed cans. I've had a comment that I've made to a lot of designers over the years, and I said anybody who has a rule of thumb on placing recessed cans in the ceiling is wrong. I don't care what your rule of thumb is, it's wrong. It's actually much more closer to a calculation. So in order to determine the appropriate amount of recessed cans, you have to go through a series of calculations, and actually it is a little bit more complex than you might expect. I have recommended to designers and folks who are interested this book. It was written a number of years ago, a little bit prior to LED lighting, so if you're thinking about LED lighting or energy efficient lighting, you probably have to interpolate the wattage requirements, but basically this is a great source. It was written by a designer, Michael DeLuca. It's called Kitchen and Bath Lighting Made Easy. And what he explains in this book is that the placement of recessed cans is impacted by the height of the room. It's impacted by the color of the room. It's impacted by the angle of the lamp or the fixture. And it's impacted on, based on the expected light levels. So if you are designing a home, or if you yourself are seniors, you're going to need just a touch more light than somebody who's in their 30s. So that's a recommendation, and this little page is kind of helps people understand why there are these different changes, these different things that need to be taken into effect. His book is 217 pages long, and I'll try to recap it in a couple of minutes. Spacing is based on the lamp and the beam angles, and if you watch this little image here to the right, you'll see that this particular sketch here is at a 60-inch height. When the ceiling height is taller, that means the light at the work plane, that's the line that's kind of in the middle of the room, gets brighter and or lighter, depending on the ceiling height. So if you were to say that I'm going to position cans every 4 foot, that might work on an 8-foot ceiling. It's definitely not going to work on a 10-foot ceiling. The Illuminating Engineering Society recommends 30-foot candles and 75-foot candles in the kitchen. And I'm just going to scoot something over here on the screen so I can take a quick look at some of these things. And the distance is relative to that lumen output. So just 1 second. And you can see here that when you start, as these sketches start going through, as you increase that ceiling height, you're getting a little bit less light. And as you select a wider beam, you're getting a wider beam of light, but maybe not as much. So you know exactly what you're supposed to get, but then reality steps in. This is actually a sketch of my kitchen and the design that I created for my kitchen. So in a perfect world, this was going to be all of the 6 recessed cans that I wanted installed in my ceiling. So you can see that I have positioned them somewhat close to the counters. I have 1 recessed can in the middle of the hallway going off to the lower portion of the sketch. And I have them lined up and centered exactly. And of course, everyone knows when you've done a design for a kitchen, everything works out perfectly once that ceiling's torn out. Well, the fact of the matter is, this is the perfect world in my kitchen. So I laid in 30-degree beam spread ceiling lights, and you can see from the top that's where my lights are positioned. And the ideal situation is for the beam spread to cut to the corner of the upper cabinet. You do not want this beam spread to hit the cabinet. You want the beam spread to go down and, excuse me, I clicked the wrong button. You want this beam spread to go to this point here. And of course you have your under cabinet lights here, above cabinet lights here, and I've got even little toe kick lights. So this is the perfect world. Now, once my ceiling was torn out, we found out that joists are a reality. So exactly the place that I wanted at least one of the lights, I was forced to reposition them. So if you can see here on this sketch, this was a piece of paper that I left for my electrician once the ceiling was removed. I asked him to position this particular can between these 2 joists, and I asked him to shift that can, because a recessed can does have a little bit of flexibility built within inside. I asked him to shift that recessed can over to the leftmost portion of that space between those 2 joists. In this case, I asked him to place this can between these 2 joists and again shift it over to the left. And finally, in this joist space, I asked him to place it between those 2 joists and shift the can to the right. So you can see where in a perfect world I wanted them a specific center to center and that they would be equal. Here I was going to end up with a 4-foot center to center, and here I was going to end up with a 3-foot 2-inch center to center. Not exactly what I wanted on my original design, but the reality is I could not move joists, and the likelihood is that you won't be able to do that either. So why have I spent so much time thinking about spacing? Well, I've trolled the internet and I have looked for bad lighting. These are a couple of really nice kitchens. Frankly, I like the designs of these kitchens, but here's a couple of the reasons why spacing becomes so important. You can see in this kitchen on the left, they have 5 cans in this kitchen. These lights back here, if you notice, are positioned very close to the cabinets. And what is happening is that the lights are being spread here in this cabinet, and this one is creating a pool of light on this cabinet. So unfortunately, what's happening is this light is almost all falling onto the face of the cabinet rather than the countertop below. So what happens is you're getting a very dark shadow line running across the working portion of the countertop here. Now here, we've got the same situation. These lights are really going to provide very little function as you're working on the countertop because the bulk majority of the light is being consumed on the front of the counter. Now, the other problem with this is that they're not really evenly placed, evenly positioned. So if you're going to display all of this light on the front of the counter, at least make them equidistant to the cabinet sizes. But that's not the case. This one runs through the center of the seam of the cabinets. This one runs through the center of the cabinet. So basically, not a very effective light source. Here's another collection of cabinets. Now these are spaced pretty nicely. What they did is they placed these lights very close to the center of the cabinets. So you can see that on this cabinet there's a very equal distribution or pooling of light on the face of the cabinets. However, again, the bulk majority of that light is on the cabinets, and you're not getting enough of it on the counter. You can see on this left side, at least, a very dark shadow line across the back. Not optimal. Second thing to remember is that your room color has a huge impact on the amount of light. If you decide to paint the room white, if you can see on this chart here, you're going to get 70 to 80% reflection. However, if you paint the room red, you're only getting 10 to 15% light. So you're going to need considerably more light in a dark room than a light room. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you're designing a kitchen for the over 55 crowd, and anyone who's thinking about the age of the eyes should not be offended. Your eyes mature at 15 years old. So if you're thinking about lighting in your kitchen, all of us have old eyes. So as you're designing for an over 55 crowd especially, generally they're asking for a little bit more of a light output on the counters. You can see here where it was 70 in the previous chart for over 55, you want to get somewhere close to 100 foot candles on the counter and 40 in the general area of the room. And again, these are Illuminating Engineering Society recommendations. So once you've done all of those calculations, you simply need to find the lamp or the lighting fixture that is going to meet those specifications. There are, of course, a number of options right now, incandescent being the most popular. Fluorescent is going to become more and more important, more and more popular, especially as our electricity bills continue to go up. And frankly, there are a number of really, really fine LED recessed cans, as I've illustrated here, that are going to give you plenty of light, consume minimal amounts of electricity. If you decide to go with fluorescent and LED, I'll just suggest to you to stay in this 2700 to 3000 Kelvin color temperature range, and of course get your CRI at 80 or above, as close to 100 as possible. This does require some information, some calculations. And that's what's in his book. He's indicated how to calculate this. But I think the important thing here is if you look at this 8-foot and this 10-foot ceiling, if you have a 10-foot ceiling, you need almost twice as much light in the room as for an 8-foot ceiling. That's pretty substantial. So it's very, very important to do a calculation rather than simply an estimate or a rule of thumb when trying to determine the appropriate placement on recessed cans. And of course, once you have those calculations, it's pretty easy to figure out which fixtures. Again, you're connected with a professional light source. They're going to be able to help you find the product that has the appropriate amount of candle power and the right angles, and they're going to be able to help you select the right product for the right applications. Layer 2, accent lighting. This is the decorative product, the finishing touch. These are the things that are going to make your room look exciting, look like a professional has done the lighting. Do you actually need accent lighting? Probably not. However, they are going to make a big difference. They are going to provide the details needed and the design aesthetics that you want in a room. So what kind of decorative lighting is available? Well, there are a number of different pieces that are decorative. Pendants, obviously, many pendants over counters are probably our most obvious decorative or accent lights. Island lights are becoming more and more popular, especially with kitchens that now have multiple islands in them. Sconces on the wall, inside cabinet lights. If you have glass front cabinets, putting a light inside the cabinet to light up those antiques that you might have inside is a great place. Over the top of cabinets, lighting over the top of the cabinet makes a room seem bigger, as does toe kick lighting. Toe kick lighting gives that floor space just a little bit more breadth, just makes it look like the room is a touch larger than it really is. There are a lot of...
Jeff, somebody just sent in a question which I probably have a good answer for about using a light inside the cabinet. They asked about what about heat buildup inside the cabinet?
Well, one of the great things is that the LED light really does not have that problem. I think if you are considering light on the inside of a cabinet, I would look to the LED light sources that are available, because they are not going to provide that heat buildup. If you decide that you are going to use the xenon pucks, do keep in mind that, yes, they will build up heat. Many of the xenon pucks have minimum size requirements on their instruction sheets or catalogs. So, for example, you might have to learn what the square footage is on your cabinet to determine if it still will maintain its UL listing if positioned in that particular cabinet. There will probably be very few reasons not to do LED in that application, though, right? Yeah, the LED is about half and sometimes even more of the heat. So you're likely not to even have an issue with the LED. But the xenon will. You do have to be careful with the xenon, and again, that's one of the reasons why you're connecting with professional lighting people. They're going to know where those xenon products are going to give you trouble. Or if you have a really big cabinet and you've got a lot of space, then it will be able to dissipate the heat created by the xenon. Great. Thank you very much. Sure. Great. Good question. Really good question. Types of accent lights that are available. Rope LED linear is a real option. There is, of course, xenon and LED tape. I think you're probably seeing more and more. This picture, I think, has a really nice example of what light can do and how it can become a design feature in a room. This is what's great about this. If you can imagine, if you turn the light on in the middle of the night, you're not really going to burn your eyes out from this jolt of light, because all of it is actually under the bed. So it's kind of creative. So rope light has been around for a couple of years. It is relatively expensive, and there are a couple of cons that you'll find with rope light. It is somewhat finicky. It is a little bit of a problem with cutting. It does have kind of a clunky or cheap look, so keep those things in mind. If it's going to be totally invisible, you're never going to see it, this might be a decent option. But if you are going to see it, I think this has a tendency to give a kind of an air of cheapness to the end result. Linear is a little bit more compact. It has a somewhat complicated installation. There are some confined working spaces, and that does require some pre-planning. I think one of the things that you should take away from this conversation is that you do want to pre-plan lighting. If your electrician knows that he's supposed to feed some electricity up to the top of your cabinet, it's easier for him to do as he starts the job than if he has to come back a couple of months later and drop a line in. When the entire room is torn apart, he can get a second line or a third line or a fourth line into unusual spots. When you've already painted and all the wallpaper's in position and he's going to need to fish wire, it is a little bit more complicated with him. So remember, again, pre-planning is really going to be the most help. LED tape, you have likely seen some LED tape around. It is compact size. The price is very, very competitive. And I think you'll see that this is going to be a very, very popular accent light in the future. There are a couple of cons. Corners can be challenging. You have to be careful with the corners as you can think about them. You also want to look at the strength of the adhesive tape that's on the back of this, on the back of the LED tape. Some of the product it just doesn't use a real good adhesive tape, or you might need to supplement that. And then finally, some of the product, some of the inexpensive or the lowest price product is commensurate in quality, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to burn it 20 hours a day, you may not want to drive toward that inexpensive product. If you're going to turn it on for a couple hours a week, that inexpensive product might be just the ticket for you to give you that extra little oomph of design in your home. And then, of course, Xenon Linear. Xenon Linear has been around for a number of years. It is pretty good. However, it does create some spotty lighting. There's a lot of work, a lot of calculations, and frankly, it's getting to be a somewhat complicated installation. So while this product did have quite a long shelf life, I have a feeling that it has seen better days, and this is a product that is likely to disappear over the next couple of years. So where should you put accent lighting? Well, I happen to think that you should put it everywhere. There are lots of applications for lighting: over the cabinet, inside the cabinet, toe kicks, under the counter, under the tables. You can treat them as portables and put them on benches or tables, and they can be plugged in just like a portable lamp. And when you move the table, you plug it into the new place. So just think about all of the creative areas, all of the things that are going to make that room look nicer once you've plugged it in. We've got some illustrations and images on some really creative ways of using accent light in the next couple pictures. And finally, the last layer is task. So basically, task lighting is exactly as it sounds. It is lighting needed to perform a task. It's concentrated in areas where that task is going to be performed, and in the kitchen, it's primarily under cabinet lighting. So you want to light that counter, want to get additional light onto that countertop where you're cutting carrots, where you're performing tasks, where you're preparing foods. And that's exactly where task needs to be. So how many task lights should I install? What type of under cabinet lighting should I be thinking of? Well, these are a couple of rules of thumb that I like to use. First, avoid dark spots. You want to light the entire counter. So that means there should be at least one light under each cabinet. And you want to make certain that the length of the light is commensurate with the size of the cabinet. Now, why would that be the case? If you put a 6-inch light under a 30-inch cabinet, it is going to give you a dark spot. And rule number 1 on my list is avoid dark spots. So by putting lights the full extent or the full width of the cabinet, you're going to avoid the dark spots and present the homeowner with a full complement of light on the countertop. Again, if you don't do that, you're going to tell that customer that she can cut carrots in this particular spot, but she can't cut carrots 6 inches to the left or 12 inches to the right. There are basically three different types of installation for an under-cabinet light. There's a modular system, which is the preferred method. It allows the lighting fixtures to be mounted to the front edge of the overhead cabinets. That gives you more light at the end of the countertop where you're performing the task. So your number one choice should always be a modular system. Number two, your second choice should be a direct wire system. Sometimes the wiring has already been positioned. Sometimes you're replacing old lighting fixtures and you don't want to go through the expense of rewiring the kitchen, rewiring the installation. Something is preventing you from using a modular system. Your second choice should be a direct wire system. That is going to concentrate the lights at the rear of the cabinet. Not going to put quite as much light at the front end of the countertop where you're performing the work, but it still is going to be pretty good light. Plug-in lighting is really for the do-it-yourselfer. It should be the last resort. If you can't get a wire connected in somehow, plug in the wire. But remember that a plug-in is going to consume one of those outlets underneath your counter, which may, in fact, prohibit you from plugging in the coffee pot or the microwave or whatever else is underneath there. I was invited into a kitchen a number of years ago from someone who put an entire new system, brand new house, and they had plugged in every single under cabinet light, and there were no plugs left over for the coffee pot or for the toaster. They had used every one of the available plugs to plug in their under cabinet lights. I'm not sure that I know how they function in that house, but because they didn't pre-plan for the lighting, they unfortunately consumed all of their plugs for under cabinet lighting. So again, pre-planning will help you avoid this.
And just what does GCO stand for? I know it must be outlet.
GCO is a grounded outlet, grounded convenience outlet. It stands for.
Outlet. Got it. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Great.
So again, here's our modular pros and cons. So the pros are going to bring the light to the front, and it allows you a little bit of flexibility in that placement. So if you need to shift it 1 inch to the left or 1 inch to the right, you can do that. The con is that it's a little bit more complicated. You are going to want to rely on a lighting professional to help you make sure you buy the parts that you need and that your installation goes a little bit smoother. We talk about the direct wire. It is a little bit less expensive. You are likely to find an electrician, almost regardless of skill level, who will at one time or another have installed a direct wire product. So those are a couple of things that are going to be in your favor. The con is that you're going to put the light more toward the rear of the countertop. So you're going to put more light on the canister set, and a little bit less light on the front. And of course, then we have all seen the pucks or the disc systems that are available. The pros, they are a real tiny size, and they concentrate the light in small areas. So if you are trying to light a relatively large space, you're going to need a lot of pucks or a lot of discs in order to do a good job. Cons are the xenon or halogen pucks do run very, very hot. So you have to be very careful of the placement and the position. Make sure they're out of the reach of children if, in fact, they're going to be able to get up onto a counter like that. So be very careful with the heat. The puck systems or the disc systems that might be LED-based, they're a little bit more complicated to install. So just be careful with that. Again, pre-planning. So here's a couple of images I think that will help you understand what kind of a value you're going to get by appropriately planning some of the lighting. So here is just a portion of a very large kitchen with no accent lights. Now let's see what happens to this room once we turn on some accent lights. You can see that it absolutely enlivens this room. The toe kick lighting around the center island kind of lifts that island off the center. We have toe kick lighting on the left and above cabinet lighting on the left as well. All of a sudden the room's gotten a little bit larger. We have above cabinet lighting and inside cabinet lighting on the right. We have a task light underneath the cabinet on the right, and then of course the shelving below is also lit. So it just takes that room and just really does elevate it. Here's another room where we have task lighting in the back cabinet over the sink, and then we have toe kick lighting on all three portions of the island. We have some mini pendants in the center island that serve as both a task and a decorative light. And of course, lighting can in fact serve dual purposes. The lighting over the island does serve as a task. It's lighting that kitchen, it's lighting the countertop, but it is also very decorative. Here's yet another kitchen where the islands all have toe kick lighting. The glass front cabinets in the rear have illuminated, have a little bit of illumination in the top. While those are glazed panels in those cabinets, they do still give you the impression, or gives you the feel, that that room has a little bit more going on with it. It gives you a little bit more depth to the room. And then in the task lighting over the back cabinets, what this designer did was push discs closer up to the back of the wall so that they created something of an array or of a design pattern in that glass tile backsplash behind it. So while it does serve as a task lighting, it also serves as a decorative element in this particular room.
Jeff, as long as you got that up, a question
Sure.
came in regarding switching.
Okay.
And do you put all these on the question? If I understand it correctly, they say, do you put all these on one switch? I think they mean, do you want to flip one switch, have the toe kick, the above cabinet, in cabinet, all go on together?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have all of these switched independent. So your accent lights, and sometimes you may even want to have them switched independent and regional. So if you have a really large kitchen, you might want to have all of your over cabinet lights switched on the left side, and then if you have like another island on the other end, separate those. But yes, you should have them separated. You should have a number of switches in any normal kitchen.
And have a few different mood settings, perhaps.
Absolutely. I personally don't believe you need dimmers, because if you have enough switches, you can set multiple room environments. I have a very small kitchen. You saw the little sketch that I have had a couple slides ago. I have 5 switches in my kitchen. One controls the lights above the cabinets. One controls the task lights underneath. Another one controls the toe kick lighting and the under counter lighting. And then the fourth one controls the light over the table, and the fifth one in the center of the room. So even in a very small kitchen, there are 5 switches. Now, I know that there might be a mathematician out there that can tell you how many variables I can have, but I think someone told me that I have to multiply 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, and that'll tell me how many variables I have in my room.
5 times 4, yep.
Yeah, so it's a number, which is again one of the reasons why a dimmer really is almost unimportant.
But a lot of the higher-end homes, especially here in Florida, get some home automation systems that let you set scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
So breakfast, dinner, coffee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And
at that point, you can get a little bit more selective.
Sure. And that's, again, one of the reasons why you'd want to have them separate, because with a home automation system would go in there and program in the morning above cabinet lights on and maybe the single light over the sink, whatever.
Got it.
And then, yeah, absolutely. So it is important to have each of these separately switched. That's another great question, because I always recommend to people that they have multiple switches. So, okay, Eric mentioned that we were going to ask a little question. I guess I want everybody to go to the little chat box in the lower right-hand side of your screen and type in and tell me what layer of light are we showing in this particular photograph. Is this a task layer? Is this an accent layer? Is this an ambient layer? Or I don't have a clue. Let's see if we get
are task,
task, ambient, or accent. So go ahead and just type that in there, send that note out, and Eric's going to. Yeah, so that's okay. No one's going to be grading us and spelling out. At least I hope not, because I'm in big trouble if that's the case. So let's see if how many people are following the ideas here.
Got a couple coming in. I got several ambient. Is what I'm hearing.
Yep. That is the case. This is an ambient layer. This is just a. You can see what I've done in this kitchen. When I designed this kitchen, we didn't want to use recessed cans. There are a couple of recessed cans in this kitchen, but what we decided to do in this was to put some semi-flush product. You can see that there's a really interesting ceiling line in this kitchen, and we wanted to kind of play on that ceiling interest. So rather than using the circle in the middle of the ceiling, we decided to use some big semi-flush products. This is a huge kitchen, as you can tell from this photograph. But we wanted to play on that. We also wanted to have quite a bit of light. So these semi-flush pieces, I can't remember if they take 3 or 4, but if there's 3 or 4 sockets in there, but they can each of those sockets can be filled with a CFL that's 23 watts, which is going to put out a ton of light in this very big space. So let's move on to the next photograph.
And several people, if there was a second, people were putting task just because I mean there were the fixtures, but perhaps we were looking at what was lit. What was lit?
Yeah.
So now what's the question?
Okay, so now, same question. Let's see what people think this is.
Okay. Yes, several people are nailing it, I believe, as task.
So the belief is that this is task lighting.
There is a couple of people with task and ambient, but yeah.
Okay, well, then I haven't done my job appropriately because this is accent lighting.
Aha. All right.
So we'll go through this so it's clear to everyone. You can see I've got lighting above the cabinets. I have lighting inside the cabinets. There's kind of a collection of cabinets that split the room between the dining area way to the right and the kitchen area. I have lighting underneath the counters. So the island, the light is under the counter, and it's lighting up the chairs that are tucked in under the counter, toe kick in the back. And then, of course, the lights in the middle, the confusion could be on the lights in the middle because they are a dual purpose. They're actually accent lights here, but they are going to be used for that cooktop. See, there's a cooktop in the center, so you are going to need that light in there. But this is primarily the accent layer. And I'm going to switch over to the next one. I'm not going to ask you what it is because if the first one was ambient and this one is accent, and unless someone's sleeping, we're going to all know what this is. Here's the task light. So you can see the task light is underneath the counter, and it's concentrating on that bowl of oranges on the back side. And if you look at the island that separates the kitchen from the dining area to the back right of the photograph, it's lighting up that counter on the right as well. And those little spots underneath the center cabinets are the task. And like I said, before, the mini pendants in the center island are serving a dual purpose. They are a task as well as decorative. So let's go to all on. You can see what kind of an impact that makes to this kitchen. You have all of this exciting light across the entire kitchen. So you can see how impactful this can be. Here's another kitchen. I'll just ask one question here. What do you think? Ambient, accent, or task lighting?
Ambient seems to be coming through.
Okay, now we've got it. That's absolutely right. This is the ambient layer. So now let's go quickly to the next photograph. You can see this is a task layer. So the work here is being performed on that back counter. There's lighting under each of the 4 red cabinets on the back wall, and the chandelier, while it is an accent piece and an ambient piece, it's also serving as a task in this particular case. And if you're washing the dishes in this kitchen, you're going to need that chandelier as well. So, and then of course here is the accent lighting. So I have lighting above the cabinets on the right, over the top on the left. I have it under the counter in the back, under the as a toe kick, and then I've also lit the island. And then of course all on, you can see again how much impact that a well-lit room what kind of a difference that can make. So the question I had earlier, I kind of jumped the gun here, no point in talking about switches, but again, I'll just reiterate, switches are important. They're integral to this design. You really do want to include them and make sure that they're a part of your designs. So let's switch over to the bathroom. So any idea why movie stars, Hollywood, Broadway people light themselves with lights going full round the mirror like this over here on the right, or even on the left where they're across the top and the bottom and the side? Well, the reason is, yeah, sure, why not?
Shadows, or the lack of shadows.
That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to avoid any shadows. The architecture of our face is such that it is easy to create shadow lines, whether or not it's from your nose, from your forehead, from your chin. There are lots of things that are going to cause shadows on your face. Basically, there's a lot of byproducts of bad lighting. And if you're a guy, you could end up with this, like this poor guy on the left. And if you're a woman, unfortunately, you could have the trouble that Mimi had when she was trying to put on the correct amount of makeup. First choice, number one option in lighting in a bathroom is lights on both sides of the mirror. This is absolutely the first thing that you want to try and do. If you have only one ability to light that mirror, it should be one on each side. If you have a second choice, place some additional product over the top, over the center, so that light is surrounding your face, just like those Hollywood lighted mirrors were in the past. So, the question is, well, why are so many lighting fixtures only over the top? Well, again, because lighting is a second thought. We're not thinking about lighting, and oftentimes electricians are making the decision. It is easier for the electrician to connect wire to one box than it is for him to put one outlet box on either side. The cost in the construction is relatively cheap. If he has to go back in later and try and rewire around studs and all the other things that are behind the wall, it becomes a lot more difficult. So if you want good lighting, you have to ask for it. If the electrician's making the decision, he's going to make a decision that's easy for his particular installation job. So in the bathroom, there is light layering, just like there is in the kitchen. And if we were to talk about the living room and the bedroom, we could apply these same layers in those rooms. So what is our task in the bathroom? Well, obviously our task is to appropriately light that mirror. So ladies can apply makeup and men can appropriately shave. General lighting. So there are a number of general lights. If the room is large enough, there might be some ceiling center lights. There could be some recessed cans to provide that. And then, of course, accent lights. Same way with accent lights. Toe kick is a very effective nighttime navigation aid. Maybe if you have a large enough bathroom, you might want to put a chandelier over the top, or cove lighting. So there's a lot of options in a bathroom. So I'm going to go and do the same thing as I did on the kitchen. Here we are in, obviously, a very nice bathroom, substantially larger than the one I have in my house. But this is lighting that I had just completed, and I guess I want people to guess what layer of light this is. No guesses yet?
Yeah, a couple of respondents have come back with accent lighting. Is that?
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Ring the bell.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so you're seeing how these light layers can apply to any room. So in this particular bathroom, there is a relatively large cove. So I put lighting in the cove. I put lighting behind the mirror, shining up on the glass tile that surrounds this corner mirror. I put lighting inside each of those little spaces that hold the towels on the left portion of the cabinet, and then I put light underneath the cabinet shooting down onto the floor. So these are all accent lights. Now, do I need any of these lights in this room? Absolutely do not. But what happens when I take it away? You can see it becomes a very, very, very bleak room. In this case, the task lighting is on each side of the face. So these mini pendants, which are now becoming a very popular bathroom lighting option. Mini pendants, I think, I'm seeing them more and more. And this particular designer asked me if I would put mini pendants in this kitchen, in this bathroom, because she was understanding what those trends were and realized that they were becoming more and more popular. So I think you're going to see a number of mini pendants along with the surface-mounted sconces used as task lighting in the bathroom. And then, of course, in this particular case, there is ambient light with the ceiling semi-flush pieces that are in that inside that cove. And then, of course, when you turn all the lights on, you can see how dramatic this very interesting bath has become, just simply by adding a little bit more light. And I'll give you another quick little angle on this bathroom, and kind of see what kind of an impact this 3 layers of light has on this really nice bathroom. A couple other options here, just again trolling the internet, trying to find some things. Here's some lights on the mirror. They're mounted directly on the mirror, but one on each side, and then a recessed can over the top, which is providing some light, a pretty decent light for task on that in this bathroom. Now, this bathroom may be a little bit more heavily designed than some places, but this is pretty good lighting. There is light on both sides of that mirror. There is a small ribbon of recessed cans going over the top, so you're getting a nice, you're getting light from the left, light from the right, and light over the top, and then of course the decorative chandelier in the middle of the room over the soaking tub. And here again, even though this is a small bathroom, there's a light on each side of the mirror. Those are the only 2 lights in that bathroom. They serve 3 purposes. They are the decorative. They match the design of that particular bathroom on the left, but they are appropriately placed on each side of the mirror, so they also are good task lighting as well. And here you can see in the bathroom here, we have lights on each side of the mirror, an ambient light in the middle, and then of course in this case we've just got the bathtub section, but a nice nice chandelier over the tub for a decorative piece.
Just a quick question that came in regarding the they say kelvins. I assume they're talking about the color temperature of the light sources.
Right.
I assume you would like to keep those fairly consistent among the different levels, correct? You don't have fluorescent. You wouldn't have fluorescent mixed with incandescent if you could help it, I would assume. Or
I actually don't have a problem with that as long as it was done purposefully. So if you were going to intentionally use, let's say, a 4,000 Kelvin, which is a pretty blue color temperature, if you were going to use it purposefully in the design. So let's say if you went back to that bathroom that I did that we just looked, and let's say you wanted to make the tray and the under counter blue, and then across the mirror a little bit warmer, there would be some balance in color. It might work in that room. If that room, however, was warmer tones, that was a very gray bathroom, if you recall. If your bathroom was shades of yellow, you might not be so inclined to include those bluer colors. If I typically do try to maintain a consistent Kelvin temperature, it could be played with. It absolutely could be played with as long as it was done with intent.
Okay. Great.
So, talking about lighting, talking about the effects of lighting is somewhat difficult. You are going to need some pictures. The pictures are going to help. So just keep that in mind, that it might be important to show people what you're talking about. You know, this when you look at some of these images, you can see where the lighting really isn't very appropriate. These are beautiful bathrooms, but in some cases they don't have enough light to function. I'm just going to go ahead and shrink something here, but if you look at this image over here on the right, lower right, there is no task lighting in that mirror, and it's in this little alcove, so you're standing in shadow. So how are you going to put makeup on appropriately, or how are you going to shave in that room? Same thing if you look at the upper right corner. Because there's no task lighting there and there's a very large window, you're going to have one side of your face lit very well, and then the other side is going to fall into darkness. And here we have, again, some additional kitchens that really aren't lit very well. This kitchen in the lower right has a chandelier, but there's no recessed cans and no supplemental lighting other than that chandelier. Now, maybe if you had that kitchen, you might not worry so much about the food preparation, because it is obviously some very expensive equipment in there, but still, there's no point in it. And if you look at this lower right, there's 2 recessed cans in this entire kitchen, and that's certainly not going to be enough light. So you have to take a look at appropriate lighting in kitchens. These are all very nicely designed kitchens, but lighting certainly wasn't thought about. So, you know, here's my comment. You're thinking about plumbing, you're thinking about appliances, you're thinking about countertops, cabinets, wall coverings. Lighting is just important. It is really a key, and if you plan appropriately, then it will be easy to add those light sources in. Also, remember, think about energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a really important aspect. You use your lighting in the kitchen more so than any other lighting fixture in the home. The only other possible option would be your outdoor lighting. But basically, if you're going to save money, if you're going to invest to save dollars in your electricity, invest in energy efficient lighting in the kitchen. You can afford to have a non-efficient dining room chandelier if you only turn that on a couple hours a month. But when you're using the under cabinet lighting 6 hours a day, when you're using the lights in the kitchen multiple hours a night, you're going to want to spend some money to make sure that these our energy efficient product. And include those lightings, if you're a designer, include those lightings in your portfolio. Show how lighting can be an interesting element in the design of the room. Lighting adds drama, it adds excitement, and it can make an okay design good, and it can make a great design dramatic. And the important part is that you have to do it right. So there are some tools that are available to you. Kichler does have an installation guide. You can go to Kichler.com and download that, or the folks at Capital can help you get a copy of that if that's something that's of interest. We certainly can answer any of the questions that may have been stored. We know we're running a little bit late, but
that's not you cross-dressing, is it, Jeff? Because it's...
No. Okay. It's not. Although I often have the same look. So.
All right, great. That is awesome. We are at the 3 o'clock hour, so I appreciate everybody's attendance. There are a few questions that people have sent to us that are a little on the specific side, and I'm going to forward those along to Jeff. And if anyone else has a question that would like answered, on the follow-up email that you will be getting in the next, hopefully by the end of the day today, it might come out first thing in the morning, that we're going to send to all attendees today. The email addresses on there are going to be mine, my marketing manager, and Jeff. So please feel free to reply to any one of us. The technical questions I'm going to let Jeff answer. If there's marketing questions regarding capital lighting, whether it's on Expert Finder or our event here in Boca next week, or anything capital lighting specific, I or Yuli will be answering those questions. But Jeff, it really was fantastic. I learned a lot. Hopefully our attendees did as well, and I just want to thank you for your terrific presentation. It was really great.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So with that, I ask everyone else to have a great end of your day. Got a few more hours of daylight left, so make sure to make the most of it, and have a wonderful week. And I look forward to talking and seeing you all soon. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks everybody for joining us today.